now with meteorologist Paul Hagen.
We've been giving you that first alert from our virtual weather center about the upcoming heat wave and the heat dome responsible, which begs the question, what exactly is a heat dome? Let's get into the details here. Technically, it's an area of high pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Now, unless you have a degree in atmospheric science, that probably doesn't mean a whole lot. Folks have a tough time visualizing that. So let's think about it in 3 dimensions. It is literally a mountain of air in the atmosphere overhead, and that air just weighs more. It exerts higher pressure on us. It's where we get the name. And within that mountain of air, there's sinking air overhead. It compresses the air at ground level, and that heats it up. But also suppresses the development of clouds, much less showers and thunderstorms. It gives us abundant sunshine, tends to trap pollution near ground level as well, and it traps that hot air at ground level. Now, there's one way in which this could maybe help to mitigate the worst conditions that we're going to experience. I'll talk about that with the muggy meter in just a moment, but the heat is going to be a major factor, and if the heat index, what it really feels like, climbs high enough, well, we get a heat advisory when that heat index climbs over 105 degrees, extreme heat warnings when the heat index goes over 110 degrees. That's not the most likely scenario. I think we could see some heat advisories issued later on this week, though, when temperatures, just the air temperature, going to climb up to around 100 degrees Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. These are going to be the peak 3 days of this heat wave. We start to go down a little bit on Sunday, and then we'd go down the other side of the temperature roller coaster as we head into next week. Records likely to fall Friday and Saturday. Here's the forecast high temperatures and the records for the next 5 days. And you see we're going to be close already on Thursday and then setting new records, 100 degrees Friday and Saturday, and still within 4 degrees of record territory for the end of the heat wave on Sunday. But the air temperature, just part of the story. Let's talk about that heat index, the feels like temperature, which is going to be about a 6-degree gap between the air temperature and the heat index today and tomorrow. We narrow that down very slightly to a 4 or 5 degree gap Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Why the difference? Why is there going to be less of a difference between the air temperature, which is going to be hot, and the heat index, which will only be a little bit hotter? It has to do with the humidity. The muggy meter, over the next 7 days, you see these wild swings on the chart Friday and Saturday because that sinking air overhead with the heat dome, there is some lower humidity air higher up in the atmosphere, and that sinking air could push some of it down towards ground level, reduce our humidity levels during the peak heat of the afternoon, and that would help to keep the heat index from climbing a little bit farther into the low 100s. That's the one optimistic side of the forecast, but it's going to be dangerously hot either way. Make sure you're taking those hot weather precautions, stay hydrated, find at least some shade, if not some air conditioning during this 5-day stretch of first alerts for hot weather all the way through the holiday weekend. Nia Hardens here tracking your first alert traffic on this Tuesday morning.
First Alert Traffic is sponsored by Campbell & Associates, your local